As you might already know, there are so many different ways that we can classify numbers, and understanding these different labels and when to use them and how to classify numbers is one of the most important skills that we can have when we're starting off in math. So today we're going to be going over the different categories that you see below, including whole numbers, integers, natural numbers, rational versus irrational numbers, real versus imaginary numbers, complex numbers, prime versus composite numbers, and even and odd. Let's start off with whole numbers. So whole numbers are numbers that do not contain decimals that are positive. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. An integer is a number that can be both positive and negative and also includes 0, but it must be a whole number in the sense that it does not contain any decimals. So an example of an integer could be -5, could also be 3, could be 2, and could be 0. Natural numbers are all of the positive integers plus 0. So instead of starting at 1, we start at 0. 0, 1, 2. Rational numbers are both integers and fractions. But what's really important is that numbers divided by 0 are not rational numbers. So for example, a quarter is a rational number, a half is a rational number, a third is a rational number, but so are numbers like 5, 2, and -1. An irrational number is a number with a decimal that is non-terminating or never-ending. One of the most famous examples of these is pi. Pi starts off as 3.1415 ... and it continues forever and ever. So when we have these non-terminating decimals, that's what we call an irrational number. So what are real numbers? Real numbers include integers, fractions, and even decimals. So 2.5, yeah, that's a real number. -2.5, sure thing, also a real number. A quarter, yeah, that's a real number. 5, 10, all real numbers. -1 and -3 would also work. So what does that make an imaginary number? An imaginary number is usually the result of taking the square root of something negative. So in this case, the square root of -25 would be 5, but we would attach a tiny little I next to it, which we like to call an imaginary unit. A complex number is when we take a real number, like 3, and we add it to an imaginary number like 5i. A prime number is a number that is only divisible by itself and 1. An example of this would be 7. We can try dividing by 7 by so many different numbers, but 7 is only divisible by 1 and only divisible by itself. Other examples of these include 3, 5, and 11. What is a composite number? So a composite number is a number that we can divide by itself, the number 1, and another number. So if we take the example 6 we can divide by 2. We can also do 6 divided by 3. We can take 6 divided by 1, and even 6 divided by itself. Even numbers are numbers that we can divide by 2. So for example, 14 divided by 2 would give us 7. That's an even number. 202 divided by 2 would give us 101. That's also an even number. Odd numbers are numbers that we can't divide by 2. So these are like 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. Let's take a look at an example. So here we have the number 16. Let's walk through each one. Is it a whole number? Yes. It's also a positive integer. It's a natural number. It's rational. It's real. It's not complex. It's not prime or composite. And it's an even number because we can divide it by 2. Let's now take the time to look at the number -5. This is not a whole number, but it is a negative integer. It's not natural because it's not over 0. It is rational, it's real, it's not complex, it's not prime, it's not composite, and it's odd. Can we classify the number 1/4? So it's not a whole number, it's not an integer, it's not a natural number, it's not a natural number, it's rational, it's real, it's not complex, it's not prime, it's not composite, and it's not even or odd because it is a fraction. Last one. Can we classify the number pi? So pi is not a whole number, nor is it an integer. It's not a natural number because it's not a whole number. It's irrational, it's real, and it's neither even or odd.